Okay, we're going to talk about the liver, the gallbladder, and the pancreas together. So and mostly that's because you'll see the liver, gallbladder, and the pancreas all have ducts that are going to enter into the duodenum here at the major duodenal papilla. Taking a look at this image, you'll notice these green wavy lines in the liver. That's representing the bile that is being produced by the liver that will be funneled towards something called the hepatic duct. Here is the gallbladder. There's a duct coming from it called the cystic duct. Those two will join up to form the common bile duct, and that again kind of curves around sort of in this portion of, it's just posterior to the pancreas as it meets with the pancreatic duct to form this major duodenal papilla, and again release the enzymes into the duodenum. And then you just see the pancreatic duct is a main duct that will again just join up here in the duodenal papilla. Okay, so let's take a look at the liver and the gallbladder first. Liver, fairly large organ, sort of in that upper right quadrant of your abdominal section. It has a large right lobe. The gallbladder is on the underside of that right lobe. And that side, on your right side, your kidney is actually lower than the kidney on your left side because of the location and the shape of the liver. And again, the main job of the liver here, and this is important to keep in mind, is that it is creating bile. The role of the gallbladder is to store the bile. Okay, gallbladder is not creating it, it is simply storing it and concentrating it. And here you're just seeing another view of this. There's a ligament that sort of separates the right and left lobes. It's also connecting the liver to the diaphragm above. You'll notice here in the pancreas again, here's that pancreatic duct, and we'll see that the pancreatic duct actually splits near the duodenum into the main duct and then an accessory duct. And here's just a close-up of this main hepatopancreatic ampulla. So this in that major duodenal papilla right here. So here again is that common bile duct, pancreatic duct, where they come together to empty into the actual duodenum. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the functions of the liver. There are 4 main things that it does, and this is frankly quite a bit here. It helps metabolize carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and then it also has some other functions that are not directly related to digestion. So we'll go in that order. As far as carbohydrate metabolism goes, it's going to convert various molecules into glucose. So in times where there's glucose scarcity, it can actually convert things into glucose like amino acids, lactic acid, glycogen, and other types of sugars like fructose and galactose into glucose. And it can also help store glucose by converting it into glycogen. So this glycogen that's mentioned here, as well as triglycerides, and it can store it for need later on. It also helps with lipid metabolism, so it's making lipoproteins as well as cholesterol. These lipoproteins are going to help transport fatty acids, triglycerides, and cholesterol. The cholesterol is going to be used to make bile salts, so the actual bile is using cholesterol. We'll talk more about this. We'll kind of put a pin in this. We'll talk more about this at the end of this lecture, about how you can help lower cholesterol levels with some diet. And as mentioned in a prior slide, the liver is going to store some triglycerides. It also helps break fatty acids down to generate ATP. So it will also help with protein metabolism. So you can see that liver will remove the amino group from certain amino acids so they can be used for ATP production, or they can be converted into carbohydrates or fats. So you can take an amino acid and turn it into a carbohydrate or fat if that's necessary. Oops, my apologies. However, that process called deamination results in ammonia, so it also, which is toxic. So that needs to be quickly processed by the liver into something called urea, which then is excreted in urine. It will also synthesize plasma proteins, some of the ones that we talked about or at least alluded to in the clotting cascade. There's quite a few in the immune system that are being produced by the liver. And then it can also convert from one amino acid into another type. So all of that dealing with protein and protein metabolism. And then so many other things. So probably the biggest other function is detoxifying the blood. By altering drugs, alcohols, hormones. Some examples are thyroid and estrogen hormones. It helps remove waste products. For example, bilirubin, we talked about that back in the blood lecture. It helps store some fat-soluble vitamins. It stores iron. We talked about that back in the blood lecture, as well as copper. We don't talk much about copper, but it is an important trace element. It helps phagocytize worn-out red blood cells. We talked about that. Some bacteria. It activates vitamin D, which is important in calcium absorption. And then, of course, releasing bile salts to help digestion by something called emulsification. And this is going to be really important. So emulsification is a mechanical digestion. Okay, I cannot say this enough. Bile salts help digestion of fats by emulsification, which is mechanical. Emphasis. Write that down. Okay. All right, so it's basically taking large fat pieces and breaking them into smaller fat pieces so that enzymes can then break them down further using chemical digestion. Okay, but again, bile salts is mechanical digestion via emulsification. Quite a bit of bile is being produced a day. You don't need to memorize that number. It's just letting you know. It has a yellowish-green color and a basic pH. It's mostly water and cholesterol, along with some salts, sodium, potassium salts, and some bile acids. There's some bilirubin that's coming from the breakdown of hemoglobin. And that's what you're seeing here. You'll see this in lab underneath the microscope. So you'll see the hepatocytes. Those are all those cells. You'll see that central vein forming these hepatic lobules. All right, so what helps regulate the secretion of bile? So again, parasympathetic stimulation is going to be important. So again, your rest and digestive nervous system. Fatty acids and amino acids entering the duodenum will stimulate the release of CCK, right? If you remember CCK and secretin. CCK, it's called cholecystokinin, is how you pronounce that. Most often we just call it CCK. That's going to cause the gallbladder to contract. It also stimulates the pancreas to release enzymes, and it causes that hepatopancreatic sphincter, so that sphincter that was here, to relax. It will also send feedback to the brain saying, hey, we've got food coming into our intestine. We're full. Like, stop. This is like one of the first stop eating signals. Secretin is also going to stimulate ducts to secrete more bicarbonate. So again, bicarbonate is basic and it'll help neutralize the hydrogen ions. So it'll help neutralize that acidic pH coming from the stomach. And it will also slow gastric activity. So it's basically slow down, let us neutralize the pH, let us get our digestive enzymes into this chyme that you just sent over stomach. And then once we're done with that, you can send us another bit of chyme over, right? So it kind of does this in waves. That gastrin that we talked about by the G cells in the stomach are going to help they weakly stimulate gallbladder contractions as well as the pancreatic enzymes. So not quite as effective as these, but it also contributes. Okay, so this is the main way that we regulate how bile is being secreted. It's basically the duodenum sending signals, chyme has entered, okay, get going, start releasing bile. Okay, and then the pancreas, it has sort of three sections, the head, body, tail. There's that pancreatic duct that is going to connect it to the duodenum. There's also that accessory duct that you saw. And then there's two main parts, two main, groups of cells in the pancreas. The first group are going to be your endocrine cells. The other ones are your digestive enzyme producing cells. So your pancreatic islets, these are your endocrine cells producing hormones. And then you have the other ones that are producing fluids and digestive enzymes. Vast majority of the pancreas will be producing digestive enzymes, so this all of these cells here. Only about 1% are these pancreatic islets. You'll see this in lab as well. These are the ones that are producing hormones. And we'll talk more about those hormones, especially as we get into the endocrine system. So as far as the digestive secretions, so one of them, one thing, these enzymes are going to be alkaline. So again, they're going to be basic. They're going to have sodium bicarbonate associated with them. So again, they're basic. They help neutralize the pH. Many of them are proteolytic. That means they break down proteins. So those are trypsin, chymotrypsin. You'll notice the similarity in the name. Elastase. So this is something that breaks down elastic fibers, as well as something called carboxypeptidase. So these four are all breaking down proteins in slightly different ways. There is an amylase that will, anytime you see amylase, this is digesting carbohydrates. So remember, amylase digestion started in the mouth. It stopped in the stomach, and now it's picking up again in the duodenum and in the small intestine, as well as pancreatic lipase. So again, remember we had some lingual lipase that was activated in the stomach, a little bit of gastric lipase, although that didn't function too great in the acidic environment of the stomach. So really a lot of the fat digestion is now going to be done here or started in duodenum. The bile from the liver and the gallbladder is going to help break up these fat pieces into smaller pieces, and then this pancreatic lipase will do the chemical digestion part and break them down into the smaller components. There's also enzymes that break down DNA and RNA. So there's deoxyribonuclease and then simply ribonuclease. And then again, just remember pancreatic secretion is being regulated by secretin and CCK. And then this is just another kind of up-close view of these, the duct work here. So again, we've got our hepatic ducts. There's a common hepatic duct. There's a cystic duct. They come together to form the common bile duct. And then here in the pancreas, so again, here you can see the parts of the pancreas. This is the tail, the body, and then this roundish part is the head. There's a pancreatic duct, and the main pancreatic duct joins up with the common bile duct. The accessory pancreatic duct kind of branches off superior to that. And then here in that duodenal papilla, that is sort of this, well, not sort of, that is the finger-like projection into the duodenum. There is a sphincter, which basically means it's like a little ring of muscle right here that keeps it closed when no food is in the duodenum, and then opens when there is for these digestive enzymes to be secreted. Okay, hopefully that made sense. I will stop there. As always, if you have any questions, please let me know.